right, it is being live streamed, so it'll take about a second or two for this to show up. We do have, oops, no, I don't want to do any of that. So in the world of YouTube, everything when you're doing a live stream is about a 30 or 45-second delay. And so we should see it come up in just a minute. I'm kind of monitoring to see. Oh, there we go. All right. There we go. And it would help if I muted my microphone or my speaker, because you don't want to speak. Anyway, whatever.
I got it.
Hey, Kris, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you for asking me.
I am so excited to have a collab with you, and I'll confess to everybody that's watching tonight, this has been something that you and I have been talking about for how many months now?
Oh, at least 4. I think we started at the beginning of the summer, just trying to coordinate schedules.
I know it was, and we've had to reschedule a couple of times. So I'm really excited about tonight, but if you're watching and expecting an over the top, super orchestrated, wonderful live stream with this amazing project, you are sorely mistaken, because we did not plan anything other than just to sit with a beverage and to talk about quilts. So that's all we're doing tonight. We're just going to have a little quilty catch up. If there are questions that you have for Kris from Sew the Distance or for myself, you can put them in the chat. If you tag me, I'll be facilitating the dialogue and just helping to get the questions in front of her. So if there's anything that you have for Kris this evening, just tag me and we'll go through those. Kris, I know you have a lovely YouTube channel, and I know that you just released a collab that you did with the very one and only Fallon from SEWBECCA Quilts. I haven't had a chance to go through and watch that whole video yet. Do you want to talk a little bit about that collab? Tell us what kind of got you thinking about it, how it got dreamt up, and
Sure. So Fallon, I love Fallon. She's awesome. And if anybody out there is not following her, you need to. She's great. She has a wonderful heart. And she reached out to me, I think in December. I was just a fan of hers from a long time ago, from like a year before I actually started talking to her. And she reached out to me about doing collaboratives. And she also just kind of mentored me in the beginning a little bit with YouTube, which is so nice because, as you know, the quilters on YouTube are fantastic, and we all tend to work together for the most part, and just bring everybody into the group. It's awesome, and support each other. And she did that with me, and I'll be forever grateful to her. Between her and Tracy from the Sewing Channel, it's just been, I don't know if I would still be here as a YouTuber without those two. They gave me so much advice and just explained so much and just were right there with me. So I was just so flattered when we decided to start collaborating with some projects, and we love it. It's really because we like to sew together, and it's kind of our way of sewing together. And it's kind of taken on a mind of its own, because now people are about every 6 months are looking for these collaboratives, and we've done 3. So we just usually chat on the phone and say, okay, what do you want to do? And we start throwing out ideas, and we text each other, and we just kind of come up with an idea for it. And this last one was a great one. Of course, we don't know if they're going to be great. We don't know if the public, if everybody's going to love them or not. But we love them. So
that makes all that matters.
And this one, I kind of dropped the ball on. It's a big, long story. And, but we decided probably 2 months ago to do this budget quilt. How can we make a quilt on the least amount of money? So we competed, and all we did was our parameters. We picked a free pattern from Moda that everybody could get. And then we decided we were going to do Christmas Scrappy. That's it. We didn't tell each other anything else. So when we put these videos out there, they're new to us too. And of course we were competing to see who was going to be the best, get the best price. And I won't tell you who won, but
you got to go watch the video to find that out, right?
she was much more frugal, but it's funny because some of the same ideas I had, she had, and of course it was a surprise to us when we saw it. So it's a lot of fun. We just come up with these ideas, and we're always looking for new ones. We did one, I think I pulled it here. Sorry, I'm off screen. Let me get back on screen. Oh, no, we decided on this book one time, and we picked a pattern from this book, and then we each used the same layer cake, but we did opposite colors. So where she put the lights, I did the darks, and vice versa. So that was a lot of fun because it got to show people 2 different colorways with the same fabric. And then we also did a Moda layer cake one. So we do all kinds of stuff. And who knows what next will be.
I am actually putting so I can't type and do this at the same time, apparently. But I am actually putting a command in the chat right now, !Kris with a K. And so if people want to check out your YouTube channel, that will give them a link directly over to your channel, and they can find out who won that little challenge. Check up on the collab, and then of course from there you can get the link to Fallon's channel for SEWBECCA Quilts, and you can see a lot of that as well. So
yeah, it's a lot of, I don't know what we're doing next. We haven't really even talked about it. This one was a little bit of a whirlwind for me. I just couldn't get out of my own way with it, and it ended up, she texted me last week and said, are you sure you want to go live on Thursday with this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I have plenty of time. And then Wednesday rolled around and I was working all day into the night because I had to make a quilt and a video. And I actually didn't get the quilt done, but I got the blocks done. So that's good. You know, I'm on my way. So she got the whole quilt done though. And it's beautiful. And it's so funny. We use the same pattern and hers just looks so much different. They're both incredible.
It's amazing how just changing a little bit of something, a little bit of fabric or a little bit of color will change the entire quilt. It blows my mind. I've seen several patterns where somebody uses a different colorway, or they just change one element of the quilt and the whole thing is completely different. And then when you start thinking about how you're going to quilt it too, that's another element to the story of a quilt as well. So it's interesting how many variations of the same project there can be out there.
Absolutely. And this one is a perfect example of that because I used a green sashing strip and she used a white, and it looks like a completely different quilt, but it's the same pattern.
Yep. So I'm going to read through the chat a little bit. We've got a couple of comments out there. We've got to read off Tracy's because Tracy kills me. Tracy said she wants to do a budget quilt for my stash.
Oh, we should do it. I mean, it was fun. It was harder than I thought it would be. And I have a pretty big stash, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it. And it was harder than I thought it would be. You know, I thought, oh, this is going to be a breeze. I have tons of fabric to choose from, but it gets a little trickier when you really start to think about budget. And, you know, I mean, I think about budget, but I guess when I want fabric, I usually just get it. And maybe I'm spoiled in that way. I can do that, you know? So I really wanted to look at it like, okay, when I was starting to quilt, when I wasn't real confident with my abilities, when I knew I was going to make mistakes, I didn't want to spend the money, you know, because I knew it probably wouldn't be something I'd be proud of. So I really needed to get back to that mindset. And I think that that's important as YouTubers for us to think about that too. You know, we've been doing this a long time and many people haven't.
I remember when I first started, I would shop exclusively from Joann's. And I don't mean that to sound like a dig towards people that only still shop at Joann's. But when I'm saying I shopped at Joann's, I would pick up all of the fabric, and whatever was the cheapest is what I walked out with. And there were several quilts that I worked on that were made out of muslin because I didn't know any better, but it allowed me to get my feet wet. It allowed me to practice with my 1/4 inch. It allowed me to practice all of the things that we need to do to build a quilt. And at the end of the day, I still had fun and I still enjoyed myself putting the quilt top together. So it didn't matter whether it was the most expensive materials or the most affordable. I don't think that we have to always work with the most expensive top of the line fabrics. If you have the budget for it and it speaks to you, feel free. But there are definitely ways, economical ways that you can put together a quilt, like for example, if you shop from a friend's stash. Tracy,
that's it. Yeah, or swap fabric. You know, if you find something on sale, swap it with somebody else. You can. There's a lot of fun ways to expand your stash if you don't have a large stash. You know, and you can really find some creative ways to do that. But it does, you know, it makes you do. Can't talk. It made me think differently about it. I think it did for Fallon too, and I think we both are kind of more sensitive to it because of this project. And I think going forward, it's going to be a mainstay in our projects on, you know, how can you save money doing this?
So let me ask you a question, and you don't have to answer all of these. Again, I haven't seen the videos, so I may be asking questions about your collab with Fallon that you covered in the video.
That's
And
okay.
if you want folks to watch the video, that's fine to answer it by saying, go watch my video. So
Okay.
just put that disclaimer out there right now. Not offended. We'll just move past it. When you did your video, did you share how much you actually came up out of pocket to make the quilt?
Yes.
That's awesome. Was it a lot, like, was it a lot less than you thought it would be? Or were you surprised at how frugal you were able to be? Or were you surprised at how unfrugal you were able to be?
I was surprised at how unfrugal I was to be. So and I don't mind sharing this. I mean, the video stands on its own. I think, I don't know.
I did start watching it, but I had to pause it for the live.
It's okay. You don't have to. I mean, I know. I mean, I try to watch other creators and it gets to a point that I do put it on, put things on, but don't worry. No, that's okay. Just what came out yesterday too. So don't worry. So
Tracy said it's on fire.
It is on fire, which kind of surprised me because I literally made a quilt. Well, made all the blocks. I have them back here. I've been working on them because I'm still trying to get them together. I made all the blocks and I made the entire video in like a total of 24 hours and edited it. And I was losing my mind because I procrastinated. It was on me. So I was surprised. In fact, I think I even text Trace. I said, this video is not great because I felt like it was very choppy. But for whatever reason, I'm shocked that it's doing as well as it is, but it is. And I'm happy about it. I think, now that I've rewatched it and calmed down, like haven't been on that, high alert, I'm like, okay, I put some good stuff in here. I think, I really want to help people. And I think I did. But so I really got stuck on a color I wanted for my sashing. And I always make sample blocks. I highly recommend it. I think that's one of the most economical tips for people because you won't waste money on a project that you maybe don't understand or don't exactly know how it goes together or on the colors that you're choosing. So I definitely suggest a mock-up. And I got stuck on a medium green and I have a huge stash of fabric. And do you think I had that medium green and I needed 2.5 yards of it? So I ended up buying that.
Yeah.
I bought it on sale, but yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I couldn't find something to go there. But
I think one of my killers, one of the things that kills me is I think sometimes I overindulge in my background fabric. I end up buying the designer's tone on tone that goes with a line if I bought a layer cake or a fat quarter bundle or something, because I want it to be matchy. But then once the quilt is put together and it's all quilted and I look at that background, it reads as a solid. You can't even really see the tone on tone. You just see the overall color. And I could have saved money if I just would have went with a solid.
And with this, yeah, and that's
frustration too.
Even as a solid, I wanted this, it's this green, and I wanted this green, this medium. I don't want dark, I didn't want light, and I really struggled to find it anywhere or anything like it that had that value that I wanted. So one tip that I didn't mention in the video that is really important, I think, is if you're making a holiday quilt and you want like a green, you can look in the fall fabrics for your Christmas quilt for the greens. So people think, oh, you got to look at the Christmas fabrics for all of my fabrics, but even for greens for other projects or reds for other projects, check out those on sale Christmas prints, because a lot of times they have blenders in there that work. And that's what I did. And it was 35% off at my quilt shop and I splurged. So I feel a little guilty about that. I feel like I could have gotten away a lot cheaper if I hadn't done that, but I don't know what my other solution would have been.
It's probably only because Fallon was able to hit it out of the park with the budget. Like if she would have done it for more than what you spent, you would have not been beating yourself up. It's only because she did that.
I think you're right, because there was a competition going on. Like how are we going to pay for batting? How are we going to do backing? The things that are, and really that's the stuff that's really expensive. So
it is.
Oddly, and I'll just tease this a little bit. We came up with the same idea for batting, which was surprising because I thought it was really creative and she was just as creative as me.
You want to know what that really creative idea is? Go watch their videos.
Go watch her videos. You'll see. And when I watched her video, I was like, oh, we have the same idea. So that, and it's totally not where I thought she was going. I thought she was going to do something totally different. So it's been fun. You know, I don't know what we'll be doing next, and we're happy. Anybody who wants to do collabs, you know, any creators that want to do collabs with us, come on in.
I already told her, I told Fallon, I was like, I'm ready to do a collab. Like, let's do this. I think it would be so awesome as content creators if you challenged another content creator to do something. So I'm going to throw Tiffany under the bus here, but I sent Tiffany scraps, and I said in a video like a year ago, I was like, if you want to see what Tiffany could do with these scraps, head over to her channel. Now,
I love that.
She's going to do something with those scraps, but I didn't make it a really big deal. I just made it a drop in a video. You should check out Tiffany. It wasn't a big thing, but how cool would it be if there was like the quilting gauntlet that you were just like passing it around? Like, I challenge you to get out of your comfort zone and work only with brown. Like, what?
I think you should do that with Tiffany. Like, did you send her purple scraps?
I mean, I have to look at the quilt because those scraps from projects that are on the wall, there was like green and blue and pink and yellow, and there was red and white and blue. Listen, I sent her a box that was heavy, full of scraps. So I'm sure there was purple in there somewhere.
I just watched her scrap busting video, so I wonder if I saw some of it. Yeah.
That thumbnail's amazing too, where she's like,
yeah.
I'm like, she's commanding the room. I will say I did send her some purple 2.5-inch batik scraps, and I sent her like a blue yardage, like a big 3 or 5 yard cut of this, and I sent that in a scrap box to her, and it came back in a finished quilt. So I'm always down for sending Tiffany scraps because I get finished quilts back.
I suggested to Fallon, because we were talking about it again, you know, about getting more people in on it. I think an ugly quilt, like send everybody your ugliest fabrics.
Oh my gosh, right? Like send
do with them.
Here's your poopy brown.
Right, exactly.
To work with. You're welcome.
And then like some, you know, like they're only allowed to add like 3 cut, like have some parameters.
Oh yeah.
They're only allowed to add 3 fabrics. What can they do with this? And maybe a size. I don't know. I think it would be a lot of fun. We like to entertain each other with this stuff. I think it's just as much fun for us as it is, I think, for the viewers. I hope we have a good time. We really do look forward to these videos. So, well,
next time you want to expand your little duo by 1 and include me, hey, I am down. Just don't make me work with brown.
Oh, I won't make you work with brown. I won't make Fallon work with the Moda layer cakes either again, because I suggested that let's do another layer cake because I feel like I need to redeem myself. And she's like, please don't make me work with those layer cakes or with the Moda cake mixes.
Tracy said, oh yes, ugly fabric. I got you.
I have those. We could do an ugly Christmas quilt. I have a ugly Christmas sweater quilt.
Yes.
I have one let me get it. Can I get it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Go off camera and get it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But that would be a lot of fun to do, like, instead of like the ugly sweater, the ugly Christmas sweater contest, if you did like the ugly Christmas block. Oh, and it'd have to be like 12 and a half by 12 and that'd be awesome. I love that. Well, I'm already thinking of all the browns I can put in there, because that's how you make a quilt ugly, is you put brown in it, right?
I love that idea. Well, I started this project 3 years ago. It was before YouTube, I think. But these are paper pieced.
Oh my God.
Sweaters out of ugly fabric. I think I have 2 done. I have a whole bin. Yeah, I have 2 done, but that would be fun. You have to purchase the pattern, but it's on Etsy, and we could do ugly sweater block swap, or just, I like the idea of an ugly Christmas quilt.
And I'm getting text messages, not in the chat, like SMS text messages from Tracy. Yes, the ugly Christmas swap. Yes. So I think we'll have to talk off camera about how we make that happen. It's September 30th, so technically not October yet, but I bet there are several content creators, including those that are in the chat, that could be down for doing some ugly Christmas blocks.
And we can just, I don't know, depending on how many, you could send everybody a half yard of your ugliest, and we'll get, if we're 6 of us, we'll get 6 half yards, or I don't know what it is, or fat quarters or whatever. Yeah. And you have to use it in a quilt. I like that idea. That would be fun.
Tucker's teasing everybody. He's telling them that he's on his way to a wonderful quilt store and he's almost there and he wants to know if they want to see where he's at. I don't know how he's going to do that, but whatever.
Interesting.
I had to laugh because Tracy put in all caps with like 25 exclamation points. I'm in.
I wonder if she's texting me. I don't have my text on here. She's probably texting me too.
Yeah, and speaking of
We need
Tracy,
to pull her in.
oh no. Oh no. Well, if we pull her in, then she's gonna have our no, I'm kidding. I have no problem with that. We can totally pull her in. Except we also have somebody else that we're pulling in.
That's true.
Excuse me, ma'am, do you know what the price on this is? It's
$59.99. Put it back.
Okay.
I love it.
So Tucker is actually here with me and he's dancing in the background. You want to pull a chair up?
Well, what else am I supposed to do but dance in the background?
Oh, I like it when you dance in the background. We're
Can you
going to
moonwalk? Let's see moonwalk.
yeah, see, you got a moonwalk,
I
buddy.
ain't doing none of this.
We're gonna switch over to this camera, which will give us maybe a wider angle, I think, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
why
not.
not?
You know what? We'll just put you back the way you were because that worked too. And I'm there. Look, we fit.
Look at that.
We fit. Now I cannot have this really weird angle.
Here we go.
So Tucker is joining us. We were he was hanging out right over here and we were just chatting. He's in visiting for a couple of nights. And I figured instead of, him watching from the guest bedroom or whatever, he could join us for a little bit of quilty chat. So
Love it.
Kris already knew that he was here before the live stream started, and we already told her that he was going to join us. So we'll keep talking, but now we've got this project conceived with ugly fabric. What do you think?
I'm ready to go. I have some of the ugliest fabric you've ever seen in my life. And it needs to be put in a quilt.
It needs to be put in a quilt.
I have some ugly vintage fabric.
Oh, there was a quilt that we saw in one of the booths at the quilt show. So there's a sewing expo happening in Fredericksburg, Virginia right now. Tomorrow's the last day. And that's why he's here, because we've been going to the expo. We went today and we're going to go again tomorrow. Yep. And one of the booths in there has this beautiful quilt that has ornaments on it that look like those 1970s ornaments. Like, I don't know how to explain them. They're like baubles.
The blow molds.
They're like
blow molds.
the top and the bottom.
Oh my goodness, what are they called? Shiny brights.
Sure, that.
Okay, yeah, the ones that have like this sparkle inside, like they kind of.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
They were made in Pennsylvania, Wellsboro.
Oh,
I know where Wellsboro is.
So
yeah.
When we were watching your video before the live, your location underneath the video said Pennsylvania, and Tucker got excited because he was like, wait a minute, she's from Pennsylvania. So
Are you from Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania.
Oh, where are you at? Well, I don't want to give too much of my location because I gotta be,
Right. Well, I just say that I'm around the Lancaster area.
Okay, and I'm a ways from that. I'm in the Williamsport area.
Oh, well, that's closer to my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to text and I'll tell you exactly where I'm at. But
Okay.
and you guys are gonna have a wonderful meetup. Can I be in on that one too? Like, I want
absolutely. Come on. Yeah, I'm way out in the country, so it'll be great. We can, I don't know, listen to the cows and look at the stars. So
I have
it's a big difference because we just, we moved here we grew up here, but we moved from Massachusetts to here. We were in Massachusetts for 27 years. So we just moved back about 2 years ago.
That's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
It's nice to be not in a city and in a nice rural area again, although it's very different.
Tiffany said, I may or may not have ugly fabric by some people's definition, but
that's the thing.
Yep. She said, I love all fabric because it's fabric, and who doesn't love fabric? And that's the thing, right? Like, I could be like, I said, I hate browns. And somebody out there is like, what? I love brown. Well, you're more than welcome to the browns, the yellows, and the oranges. Have at it.
That's it. Yeah. And I think we could really have some fun with this.
Yep, I think so too. Yeah. So we'll have to talk offline about how we get all that orchestrated and what the content looks like in everybody's channels.
Sure. Sounds great.
So Mary wants to know, Tucker, how far are you away from me? How far of a drive is it?
Well, away from you like now, like
Well-
less than a foot.
Tucker,
But-
you and I are going to be good friends.
But driving distance, it's within like 2 hours, so not
Oh.
too far.
That's bad at all.
Oh,
No. I thought for some reason it was like 3 or 4. I was like, oh man. So I was talking to Tucker and Megan, his mom, about when they were coming down, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna leave about 6-ish tomorrow. We'll try to leave by 6. And I was thinking, how are you gonna be here by 8:30? And
Yeah.
sure enough, at like 8:20, he's like, we're like 10 or 20 minutes out. And I was like, man, does she fly 90 miles an hour? And she's in the background nodding, yes, I did.
to avoid the DC traffic.
So yeah, I'm really excited. And we're talking about, okay, question for you as a content creator, and this being a new business venture for you and all that other wonderful stuff. QuiltCon, February 2023 in Atlanta. Are you in or are you out?
I really want to be in. Here's my dilemma. So my mom and I go to Florida every year in the beginning of March. I have a puppy. I have a husband who's not a fan of the puppy. No, he is, but well, she'll be 2 years. She'll be older then. I don't know. It's tough to do both trips. I really, really want to go to QuiltCon, but I also really want to spend that quality time with my mom. So I'm in this dilemma. I want to do both, but I don't think I'll be able to. So I want to do QuiltCon though. I don't know. Maybe I'll promise mom a trip in the summertime or something.
Well, here's the thing. So if it makes your decision a little bit easier, a lot of the workshops in QuiltCon for Atlanta are already sold out because it opened in August for registration. So if you're going to go to QuiltCon in Atlanta and you were hoping to go and do workshops and things like that, you're probably going to be a little disappointed right now. There are workshops out there, but they're very few. There are lots of lectures for you to go to, and they have them packed full all of the days. So you could totally do that. Here's what I'll tell you. 2024.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, there are several content creators, Tracy, Tucker, Handmade by Ying, Donna, myself, I think even Ian, the off-kilter crafter, who have been Sean, from the guy who sews. All of these little channels are talking about, well, Tiffany's not so little anymore, but all of these channels are talking about going, and neither is Tracy. Anyway,
I was just gonna say Tracy's not.
Moments.
We're not any of us. By 2024, we're all gonna be big.
Well, yeah, maybe, and maybe I will be. I will not be.
Words, Becca.
I can't. They don't have them.
You-
They
you-
escaped me.
yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about QuiltCon 2024 in Raleigh. We're talking about going, and sign up for that will be in August of 2023. So if you're interested in going to QuiltCon, but maybe you just can't make August, or you can't make February 23 work, just mark it down your calendar for February 24 and make sure you get in to sign up for all the classes in August.
I think that's great. I personally, if I'm going to a quilt event like that, I like the lectures more than I like the classes sometimes. I mean, it's good to get in with the big names and stuff, but I find that I'm going, I'm missing out on things that maybe are only an hour instead of in a whole day. And I also like to shop. So that's with the vendors.
Yep. I think that's the fun thing. Kathy's asking, Raleigh, North Carolina. Yes, ma'am. Raleigh, North Carolina. I think that's the struggle I think that's one of the things that we're seeing a little bit. So Tucker came down a few weeks ago when one of the guilds I joined had a quilt show, and he came in and he walked around. We spent a couple hours there, and then you went to this one.
Yeah.
His eyes just got really big. He was like, this one's a lot bigger than the one that the Quilt Guild put on. And so I'm thinking about the size difference between the expo versus the Quilt Guild quilt show. And I'm thinking about like, wow, QuiltCon's going to be even bigger than the expo, right? Like it's going to be huge. Yeah.
So I went to the Vermont Quilt Festival a few years ago, and it blew my mind. And then I also in Massachusetts went to the Modern Quilt Expo that was enormous in Massachusetts, and that isn't even the big one. So I can't imagine what QuiltCon. I think we're all going to be kind of surprised at QuiltCon if we've never been to a big show like that. So that's why I'm not real disappointed. It would be great to take some classes, but I think for your first time, it's like just getting your feet wet and, might be a little bit better.
When I registered for the expo, I signed up for 2 lectures and 1 workshop. And I went to the workshop. And I think if I had registration to do over again, I think I would prefer more lectures rather than workshops, because I want to be able to create at my own pace.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait for the rest of the class. And I don't know that I want to do a lot of, unless I'm learning a brand new technique that I don't already know. If I'm working on something that I can do on my own, I just want to create. I just want that time to work on the machine. I don't want to take a workshop to do something that I already know how to do.
No.
That's kind of how I feel too. I've done it a few times at quilt shows, and I always am disappointed that I didn't do the lectures. I'm always like, okay, what am I missing out there type of thing. But that might be my personality, that I just want that hustle and bustle and the fast pacedness of it. So I don't think that would really bother me being shut out of some of the workshops this time. So
then I know there's a lot of people, I just saw it go by in the chat, that don't like to plan that far in advance. And if you are one of them and you don't like to do workshops, then you are totally fine, because that's really the only reason why you need to register in advance, is if you want to get into workshops and classes where you are hands-on making things. If you are happy going to see the quilts, doing the shopping, going to the lectures, then you can just buy the ticket the day of and you'll totally be fine.
Well, except for hotels, they're probably selling out.
Yeah, but you can book the hotel a year in advance and then cancel 4 hours before and you're fine.
That's true. So maybe I just need to book it and do it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to talk Fallon into going too. We've talked a few times, and I know, I don't know if Tracy's going. I don't know. Is she on? Tracy, are you going?
I think she's doing 2024 in Raleigh. I don't think she's doing Atlanta.
No? Okay.
Well, I asked her about Atlanta, and the first response I got from her was, oh no, I don't like the Atlanta airport. And I was like, well, you can drive. And all I heard, like every time I said you could drive, she's like complaining about the Atlanta airport. I'm like, well, she's obviously not trying.
I'll pick her up. It's not really on the way, right?
So where is Fallon? Like, I don't think
she's at soccer practice, because I told her, I said, you need to get on here. Oh, Tracy did text me. She did.
Where does Fallon live?
She lives in Texas.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't think she was like here. So she's the girl that when they do Houston, she's like, bye.
Exactly. I don't know. Yeah, I would think she goes to Houston. I've never asked her about that, but I told her, let's go. Yep. I would love for everybody, all my friends. That would be so great. Cause I've never, all my friends on YouTube, I've never met in person. So it'd be great to hang out and have a meal and,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
We could do a live from there. That would be fun.
I'll do a live from there with you. We'll talk about all the things.
Okay. Now I'm getting excited.
Right. Oh, that'll be it. We can make ugly sweater blocks to show off in February 2024. And we'll do it from QuiltCon.
Yep. Why not ugly coats or ugly ugly vests?
You could do just like a scarf. Yeah. Just be like, oh, that straight line is just a scarf. I don't know what you see. Let's see what else is in the chat. I love product demos at quilt expos. It's a good way to learn new techniques for free. That's true. Oh, Tracy says the only thing I would want to play on is a long arm machine.
Oh,
they're fun.
You want to tell that story?
About which part of the story?
You can tell whichever one you want to tell, and I'll fill in the rest. The long arms at the expo. This is a fun story, Kris.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Becca was telling me about her long arm troubles that she's having at the moment. And I was like, well, just for fun, you need to go and test drive every machine, since you never test drove any machines other than a handy quilter. Mm-hmm. Okay. The first booth we went to was Handy Quilter, just to, be nosy, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And Becca started doodling around, then I started doodling around, and a sales attendant came over. And this is just hysterical, and I'm going to keep it short, not to badmouth her, but it's just a funny story. I'm doodling, and she's talking to Becca about getting a machine, and she looks over at me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is beautiful, and you're so young, and you're just going to be so famous, and you should start a YouTube channel." And she took a breath, and Becca was like, "Yeah, he does have one. Thank you very much." And she kept going on and on and on. And Becca kept going like, "Yeah, that's
he's already putting it out there. Yes, it's already there. Yes.
Yeah.
You should quilt people's quilts. Yes, he already does."
Yes.
It was funny. I don't think she heard it. And then we heard, gosh, how many times? "Oh, he's so great. He's so talented. Are you his mom?"
Uh-huh.
Oh,
I was like, "No, I'm not. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you." And then he ran into, so yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
Anyway.
sidetracked it.
that
Anyway,
could be so touchy though. Why would people, I never asked that question. Because
I don't
know.
know. I wasn't offended at all. It
Okay.
it didn't hurt me. Like Megan and I are the same age. Like I have children older than him. It's totally
Yeah.
It's totally
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
yeah, so then we went and stopped at the Innova booth, and we were looking at the long arms as it was stitching, and I thought, this girl looks so familiar. Like, I don't know where I've seen her before, but I have seen her. And Quiltess is probably going to fly off in the comments. But here, lo and behold, it was Julia Quiltoff. And if you don't know who that is, she's a world-renowned long arm quilter. Quiltessa loves her to death.
And we told her, Quiltessa, you're welcome.
Yes. I put in a good word for Quiltessa to Julia Quiltoff. And we talked with her, and that was good. But then we made it to the Gamble booth.
Oh my gosh.
Now there's where you have to fill in.
Oh my God. Kris, I don't know a lot about your long arm experience. Have you played with any of them?
I've played with them, and in Massachusetts, my quilt shop, you could rent them. So I've quilted a few things on long arms, but I feel like every time I go look at them, I want to buy one, and then I'm like, I can't. So yeah.
So I'm just gonna tell you, the Gamble looks very pretty in person. Like really pretty. Like the lights that they have.
Yeah, those
have
cone
little
lights.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
My long armor has a Gamble too, and she has all the lights that hang there. Yeah.
I got to play on one of the Gambles, and the feel and the sound of that machine was amazing. Is it worth me personally trading in my Amara to get one? No. Am I going to do that? No.
A little bit of
Question mark. But it was really nice. It was so smooth. It stitched so beautifully, and it glided a lot. So we played with the Innova. We played with the Handy Quilter. We played with
wait, the Bernina was in there.
I tried the Bernina.
Yeah, we tried the Bernina and then the Gamble, and those are the only four that we played with. And we played with they were trying to hire him at the Gamble booth, but we played with all of them. And if I had to go back, and money was not an object, the Gamble hands down, but it was very closely followed by the Amara. It made me feel good to walk out of there and be like, yeah, if I were buying today off of those four that I tried, I would still have ended up with a Handy Quilter Amara. That made me feel really good, because I was like, I made the right purchase.
That's good. That's what I used when I did it at the quilt shop in Mass, was the Handy Quilter. I loved it. I mean, I could just go to town, get in my own little head, and just go. Someday maybe I'll own one. I'm not sure. My husband he's like, buy one, but I'm just not there yet. I can't even like machine quilt on my own machine. Like, I'm still learning how to free motion quilt on my own machine, let alone get a big giant one. I don't know.
Well, you are knocking it out of the park. I've seen some of the things that you've done, the videos that you have up, the stories of the quilt. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the lessons from an old quilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my mainstay.
That is how I learned about you, because I couldn't hear Tracy not talk about your lessons from an old quilt. She's like, oh, I just love this series. You got to check it out. You got to check out her lessons from an old quilt. So I actually didn't even know about your channel until we did the collab with Tracy back in February for her anniversary. I think you
Okay.
donated a quilt, I donated a quilt.
Mhm.
So yeah, I did. And then April's story as
I
well.
think so. Yep.
Yep. We all donated the
one more.
quilts. That's where I learned about your channel. And then I started talking to Tracy more, and she's like, "Oh, you got to watch her lessons from an old quilt. That's the best thing ever." So that I love those videos, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's how I learned about you too. And they're fun. I have a sneak peek. I just went to an auction 3 weeks ago. I bought 7 quilts.
Oh my
Do you want to
goodness.
see a sneak peek?
Yeah. And while
I
you're
gotta go off screen again. Hold on one second. I'll be quick.
Okay, while you're getting the sneak peek, we've got a question. Maybe you can answer this,
Okay.
Tucker. The question is from Megan M. What advice do you have for a new long armor?
I would say the first question you need to ask yourself is, where do you want your long arm quilting to go? Because you can go one direction and spend a lot of money, and you can go another direction and spend a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah.
You know, you have to ask yourself, are you going to do this just for yourself? Or are you going to want a business in the future? And if you don't know you want a business, maybe you do, but you're not decided right now. Make sure you get a machine that you can upgrade to, you know, a computerized machine, so that if you do a business, you have everything under the sun to offer. So, you know, just really think about what, where you want to take your quilting, and then test drive machines. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
I was like you, Kris. When I got my Amara, I had gone through the certification at my local quilt shop, and I had been renting time on a handy quilter. So buying the handy quilter was not so foreign for me, because I already kind of knew it, and that's what I was used to. But that said, I should have test drove, but I ended up with the machine that I really liked. And then you brought up another good point, and then we'll let her give us her sneak peek.
Oh, that's okay.
I brought up another good point that I really liked about the purchasing the long arm, because I never thought about this, the domestic versus the commercial.
Yes. If you are looking to have a business for people where you're quilting quilts, make sure you, when you're test driving machines, ask them, is this for domestic use, which is in-home use, like your domestic sewing machine, or is this an industrial sewing machine? Domestic use, they're not intended for business. The warranties run out after so many million stitches. But industrial machines like Gamble, there's lifetime warranties, because they're meant to run 24 hours a day, all day long.
I never even thought about that, because I know plenty of long armors. Tiffany is one of them that are running a business where they are providing quilting services on machines like Amaras and King Quilters and all these other machines. And I never thought about them being a domestic long arm, because the cost for a long arm is so I don't want to say outrageous, but outrageous. I mean, you're talking 5 digits to get into one of these. I never even thought about, okay, well, the Gamble is made to do exactly what you're doing. So can you get by on a handy quilter? Sure, but you might end up running out of warranty and maybe having some problems with your machine long term. And I will say the one thing that I thought was great, after all of the headaches I've been having with the handy quilter, Gamble comes to your home to do the service. So anyway, let's see.
Do. And what's really, I mean, the Gamble is the Cadillac, I think. Well, at least that's the one that's been around forever. And you know, tomorrow, they're not going to want to pack that sucker up and take it home. You're going to get a really good price on it tomorrow.
Oh,
is it the last day of the show?
I didn't tell you that.
Oh, well,
And then
they got to take a trade in though.
And then maybe she can use my employee discount if they hire me.
You could definitely, I mean, I'm sure you'll get a really nice price.
Yeah, the Gambles, Tracy was asking how much is a Gamble? Sorry if it was mentioned. A lot of money.
Well, let's just say this. You have to be, I would say, smart about it. There's so many different ways you can just go brand new and spend upwards of $55,000 or more on a high level Statler Ascend. Or you can go on Facebook Marketplace or Long Arm University, get a used machine, and then call for, you know, a Statler Stitcher upgrade, which is only, it's, you know, $20,000, but you get the full computerization So you spent 3,000 for the machine, you're 20, right? There's 23, but you're still saving $30,000 for the same thing.
That's
They
a really good tip.
service it and oil it and change the belts and the tracks, and it's a brand new machine when they leave.
Yep. And that's like the APQS. That's another commercial
Yep.
machine. So
you can upgrade even the older machines then to this.
You can
That's a
upgrade
really
any gamble in the world.
yeah, I don't. It was interesting whenever we walked past a long arm booth, because that's kind of Tucker's passion. He pieces quilts.
Yep.
But he loves to quilt them and he loves to work on the long arm. So we'd walk past fabric and he'd get excited about some of the stuff. But anytime we walked past a long arm, his eyes would just light up. And then we would walk away and he'd be like, see, she should have asked this question and this question. And like he was even critiquing the sales approach because he had a way to get everybody in that show into a long arm. If you would have challenged him, he could have walked out with so many sales. It's crazy. Anyway. So let's see what you've got. Let's see the teaser.
I bought, like I said, 7 quilts. Spent a little more than I normally do. Quilts at auctions are going higher than they normally are. Everybody's collecting antique quilts now, but I couldn't leave this one. Like when I saw it in the preview, I was like, I have to have this quilt. I don't care how much it costs. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see those?
Dresden, little Dresdens.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'll have to send you some pictures of, I washed them. Now, I'm embarrassed to say that I will wash my antique quilts. If there's no holes or anything, I'll throw them in the washer. I've never hand washed until this time because these really smelled. And I put on my Instagram, I have a reel up of the filth from one of these quilts that came out in hand washing it. It was so disgusting. And all you got was this whiff of BO. So now I'm on this mission to go through all of my antique quilts and wash them. And I have about 72 antique quilts. So I got a lot of work ahead of me, but I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how clean these got. But this is a really, like, look at this. Like, it's so pretty. And here's the best part. And I probably shouldn't do this because I'm going to be doing a video on it. They embroidered the date in it, which never happens on my videos because I'm always guessing the date.
So while you're looking for that, for people that are new in the chat who may not know what you're talking about, you want to give them like your 30-second elevator pitch for what your lessons from an old quilt are?
Oh, sure. So I take antique quilts. I started with about 25 of my own collection. This is when I started YouTube. It was kind of my mainstay. And I do episodes that I look at antique quilts and I talk about what we can learn as modern quilters. And when I say modern, I don't mean quilting modern quilts like color blocking. I mean, as quilters now from the makers that have gone before us.
Yeah.
And I just dissect these quilts. I take about an hour, look at them, take a lot of notes, figure out. I try to be very unique with my lessons, try not to repeat. That's getting harder and harder. But I talk about what we can do and all that stuff we can take from these quilters that made these amazing quilts without a rotary cutter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, without the modern conveniences that we have, without the fabric selections. And so that's what I do. And it's my passion. That's my favorite part of my channel. I like doing other stuff too, but that's definitely something I keep going back to. And I put one out I try to every 2 weeks, do a quilt, you know.
And I don't think where that's concerned, I don't think repeating those lessons is a problem at all. I say, keep them coming. I think part of the reason why I like those videos is I just like to see the workmanship that went into those old quilts. And I like to see somebody kind of showcasing it and just talking about it, even if it's a lesson that you already taught or a topic that you've already shown. Just having the story with the quilt goes a long way.
Well, and some of it's just speculation. Most of it is. And I'm not, you know, a quilt necessarily expert. You know, I don't have like my appraisal license or anything like that for textiles or any formal training in textiles. So it's just been a passion of mine for many, many years. I've collected quilts and I love them. So I do a lot of reading and I do research, but sometimes I'm wrong, you know, and I do my best to find out the dating of fabrics, but people usually correct me in the comments and stuff, you know, like they always do, you know, with things. So, but I'm not an expert, but I do have a wonderful love for them and appreciation for them. And they're like my children in a way. Don't tell my children that, but they, you know, I can't even part with them. Some of these that I love them and I get so excited. And yeah. So, but yeah, the date on this, look, they even embroidered the date.
Can't say 1958.
1958.
That's
And
awesome.
I just love it. I love the back is all stars. It's cozy and it's clean because I washed it and I can cuddle up with it. So I love it.
Teresa Louise actually put in the chat that she would like to know how to fix an old quilt. Do you ever go into that?
Yes. So I've done it a few times. I don't know if anybody saw, one of my first episodes was the garbage can quilt. It was the quilt top, or the quilt that I literally dug out of the garbage at a flea or at a yard sale or something. Somebody was discarding it. So I have it here. I repaired it, totally redid it, quilted it myself, just with a walking foot. And I have a video up of this too. So I can give you a link to that to put in the description of this. So I did repair this completely. There were tons of holes and all kinds of stuff. And I do repair quilts. The problem with doing videos on repairing quilts is each quilt is so unique on what it needs to be done to it that I don't know that it's necessarily beneficial to people because their quilt might have other needs. And I try to make make videos that people can pull information from that they can use, be helpful.
Teresa said, I have a dumpster quilt. I love it, but it was really dirty.
I
could hear Tucker when he saw that. He was stifling a laugh. I was like, oh, that's going to get read.
Wait till you see. I should send you pictures though. How dirty, actually, I'll send you a picture right now. I don't know if you can get it up of how dirty this one quilt was. Can you do that? Is that possible?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Just
okay, let me reply. And
are you doing it in email?
I just sent you a blank email. Okay. Yeah, I don't have your cell phone number yet. You haven't shared that with me.
Yes, you have. I texted you. And after the chat, I'll text you again. You'll be like, oh, there it was.
I probably do.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
This quote was so gross. Oh, let me see if I can find it. Oh, here. Okay. Wait till you see this water. Okay, I'll send you that one.
Okay.
File is trying to send. Oh, it's too big. Come on.
Here, we'll fix this, Kris. Kris with Sew the Distance.
Are you gonna text me?
Oh, well, yeah, if I would have saved you as, you know what? Never mind. I have it. I swear. Oh, here, it just came. I got it.
You can text me and I'll text you this picture and then you can put it up.
That's probably not happening.
No.
I don't know where oh, here it is.
Oh, isn't that a miracle?
I found it. It's only been
without pinging
it. I don't know how that happened. I don't think I saved your name, but I have your I totally have your message in here.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so anyway, this put me on a mission to clean all of my quilts because I was so disgusted and thought, what else is hiding and lurking in some of these old quilts that I have? And then I hung them on the line at my parents' house and they were so pretty hanging. I'll send you a picture of that too. So yeah.
Kris, I swear I have your phone number in here. I can't find it. Well,
Tracy will send if she's still on.
Here. Nope, I got you.
You got me? Okay.
I'm going to send you my phone number and email and then
email or text?
Email, because I don't know what happened to your contact card. I had it because I remember you sent it to me in an email. Oh, yes. Hey, I found it. It's right here.
Oh, yay. This is wonderful content that we're putting out here. Everybody.
Email.
So sorry.
That's right. That's right. I'm so sorry. People are probably watching this like, oh my gosh, you're so unorganized today. Yep.
Get yourselves together.
Yes, I'm so disorganized today. You're welcome.
There you are. Okay.
Coffee.
All right. So I will send you the dirty water here. It was so gross. And I'll never like the smell. It was like BO. It was bad.
You know, I just realized you're going to do the same thing that I'm probably going to do. You could just hold the camera up to the lens of the computer and show them that way.
Oh, duh, I could have. All right. Well, I'm sending you the pictures of them on the line. There. Okay.
I can't believe I was like, wait a minute.
I could have done that.
We could do this. Although I have it right here too.
Okay.
Oh.
So the first two pictures are the pictures of some of the quilts that I got at that auction on the line at my parents' house. And then
oh wow.
And that's not an outhouse, that's a shed. They do have running water in their house.
Oh my goodness. Look at that.
Ew.
Yeah.
Copper
Can you
water.
show?
Yeah, I will. Oh my gosh. Okay.
That was from one quilt, and
Actually,
I wish I could capture the smell, because it took me back, and it wasn't like cigarette smoke. It was like BO. It was like, who knows? It's like somebody died on this quilt. I don't know. It was really funky. But it didn't smell that bad. It smelled, but it didn't smell as bad as it did until I got it wet. And I was like, oh, I have to wash the rest of my quilts. So,
okay. So I am going to open, hopefully, yep, there we go. So I'm going to open I'm going to share my screen. We're going to show you the first one. Where do I go to share screen? Where's that got? Do you see it? Do you see share screen out
I
there?
don't know. I see it. Wait, I don't know. I can't see.
is it up in maybe
There it
the?
is. It's the green one. You're welcome. All right. So you should be seeing right now on the screen a picture of the quilts that are on the line. This is what she was talking about. These are the quilts that she has rescued. And then we're going to stop sharing because it's not all in the same thing. So sorry, I got to open them other ones the other way. Now I'm going to share my screen, and this is what she's talking about with the dirty water. And this is the piece that's really, that's all of the quilts in the bucket with
Just
the
one
brown
quilt.
water. Just one
That's
quilt.
just one quilt. That's just one quilt.
Wow.
But they were all like that.
And
Yeah.
that's disgusting and so great at the same time. Like,
There's my feet.
is
I didn't
so-
realize my feet were.
I'm like,
See that?
oh, I just want to see it dump down, see all the grime left in the bucket.
Oh, it was so gross. And then I went to my parents. So I did a couple outside, and then I went to my parents and used their bathtub, because then we could take it right out. And Mom was all excited. She's like, oh, it's going to be great because it'll clean my bathtub too. Until she saw the filth that came off of these. I'm sure she went in there with bleach afterward. And we washed a couple of them like 4 times just to get the water clear. It was so, needless to say, this is my tip for anybody collecting the antique quilts, hand wash them. I use a mix of something old. Somebody told me, some old lady, she was probably 90 then, like 20 years ago, told me how to clean old quilts. So it's called Biz. You get it at Walmart. And then I use vinegar, and I use baking soda. So it's a mix of those 3. So I put the vinegar and the baking soda, I let it fizz in the water, swash it around, and then I put in about a 1/4 cup of the Biz. And that's how I wash my quilts.
That's awesome.
There's going to be somebody out there that says I'm ruining the quilts that way. It works for me. Years ago, I used to wash them, and then I stopped for some reason. I don't know. I'm like, they don't smell. They're great. If they're smelly, I'll put them in the freezer because I think of bed bugs and stuff. Because I don't know.
Oh,
I'll put them in a plastic bag and throw them in the freezer. Now, whether that works or just makes me feel better, I don't know. But I can tell you, after this experience, they're all getting washed.
well, Tracy said, ew, I'm not cuddling with that quilt.
It's all clean now. I made sure that it was all clean. Like, it was clear water by the time I was done washing it. I kept washing it until it was clear.
What
So,
about wool batting? Is that a problem? Like,
probably. And that's a good question, because I hadn't thought of that. That probably would drink. Well, I dilute the mixture in warm water and hot water before I and then I add cold water. So I do wash them in cold water. So maybe it wouldn't be a problem. But no, it wouldn't be a problem with the antique quilts, because they washed them, and they washed them in lye.
oh, okay.
So you figure these old quilts have been washed. It's not like they've never been washed.
It's just they haven't been washed in a long time.
Exactly. And I think that we, as collectors, don't really think about the fact that they washed them. They
Gotcha.
used them.
Gotcha.
They weren't making quilts usually. I mean, I'm sure they were for some people, but they weren't usually showpieces unless they were crazy quilts or something like that.
Gotcha.
They were to be used.
Rolene is asking a question. She says, how do you determine the age of a quilt? I have one that an older cousin has made who has since passed, so I can't ask.
Okay, so I have a few books that I use. Barbara Brackman is the queen of all antique fabrics and quilts and everything. So any of her books are great. Unfortunately, a lot of them are out of print, so they're expensive to get. Like on Amazon, you have to get them used, and usually they're very pricey. But she is the queen of it, and that's my resource. But remember, a quilt is only as old as its newest fabric that's in it. So even think about our own quilts. I have fabric on my shelves that is 25 years old, so if I made a quilt today, and they had a 25-year-old fabric in it, somebody would say it was made in, I don't know, the 80s, 90s, whatever, when in reality it was made today. So you have to really think about that. So look for your newest fabric, and that'll help you date when the quilt was made. There's a lot of books out there. That's what I use. Reverse searches. Google Lens is your best friend. So take some pictures of the fabrics and use Google Lens. It'll usually find it. Usually the fabric's on Etsy for sale, but it usually will tell you a date and stuff like that. But it's always a mystery, and I get it wrong. I've been doing it a while now, so I kind of have a feel for things. I knew this. I actually said to my mom when we saw this at the auction, I said, that's from the 1950s, 1960s. And sure enough, when I found the date, I'm like, see, so you get an idea. The more you do it, the more you look at fabrics, the better it gets. But
I'm remembering a trip that I took to the Virginia Quilt Museum in Harrisonburg, Virginia, literally March of 2020, like a week before shutdown happened and the whole world changed. And we looked through a bunch of quilts that were there. And as we were leaving, we of course went through the gift shop, and you have to stop and buy something because you want to support the quilt museum. Mm-hmm. And they had old antique quilts, no labels, no dates on them, no nothing. Some of them were in great condition. Some of them really needed some help. And we decided to rescue a couple quilts. We adopted them, took them home, paid for them, of course.
Right.
And my mom still has hers. Mine has since fallen apart. I loved mine, but mine had a lot of holes in it, like when I got it. And my husband wasn't, like, we weren't hand washing it. We were just tossing it in the washer, and he was putting it on the back of the couch, and probably should have treated it a little bit better. I will tell you, the last days of that quilt got a lot of love. So
that's
I was
what it's about.
I was thinking about like going through that place and picking out a quilt. I think that would be a lovely challenge, to pick a quilt, like an old quilt, come across one and have that sent to Kris and be like, all right, Kris, dissect this.
Bring it on. That's what I love to do. It's funny. I'll look at a quilt and I'll find things, and I'm like, I'm flabbergasted that this happened, or that I noticed this, or, like, why would they do that? Like, I had this one quilt recently, got a lot of buzz. I hated it. And I was very clear that I hated the quilt. People don't like it when you say you hate quilts. I don't know, for some reason, it's like, do you know the person that made this or something? I don't know, but I did not like the quilt, and I didn't like the construction, and I thought it was stupid the way they constructed it. And I was very honest about that, probably in a nicer way than I'm being right now. But I was just shocked that somebody took the time. So they I don't know if you saw, I think 2 lessons from an old quilt ago. They took the time to applique 9 patches onto a sheet.
Yeah. We just both looked at each other like, what?
Thank you. You just verified me here as a person. I'm like, why would they ever do that? So there's sometimes I look at these, but then other times I look at them like, this actually is appliqued on.
Yeah. Okay.
This sashing. So I haven't really looked closely at it. I know it's appliqued. It's bias that I think.
Well, maybe they had like a whole cloth, right? And rather than cutting everything up, because if you think about it, like, and this is just playing devil's advocate, if you've got a whole cloth, or maybe you have an old sheet that's got holes in it or something, and you're just making patches and you're just putting them on there. I think about, like, in today's time, if I'm going to make a 9 patch, I'm going to get my rotary cutter, I'm going to get my ruler, and I'm going to cut out strips and put my 9 patch together and piece it. But back then you had to cut everything out with scissors. So maybe
it was upholstery. I forgot to mention it was upholstery.
Oh, well, maybe that's it.
They turned under the edge of it was a machine. I don't know. I don't understand it, but you know what? It still makes for interesting conversations. Yeah. Because again, we can learn from that.
Right.
And somebody commented in my a lot of people were very upset with me, I think, with this particular episode, because I just didn't understand it. And I was clear with that, and somebody commented that they had read in an old magazine that this was a hack, a quilting hack, to use a sheet and applique 9 patches on it. I'm like, how is that saving you any time? And they offset the squares, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But, I mean, somebody did a lot of measuring and a lot of appliquing onto, I don't know, but so I don't know how we got to talking about this. Most of the time I love the quilts though, everybody that's watching. Most of the time they're, I find that I really am passionate about it. But
so Teresa did want to know if she has a quilt that she would really like to have dated, could she send you pictures of her old quilts to see if you could help her?
I can help her. Yes. I don't know, unless I see it, it's hard to tell sometimes, but yes, she can send it to me. My email is sewthedistance@gmail.com.
There you go.
Yeah. So she can absolutely send it to me. I can see what I can do. Yeah, it's harder when you doing it through a photo, but I can see what I can do and try to help her with dating it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm happy to do that. People do that all the time.
I think that is amazing that you love to do that, because I don't think I would have the patience for it. I just look at it and go, I wish they would have put a label, and then I move on. That would have saved me some time.
Yeah, I do love, I put them out on my table here in my sewing room, and I always think, oh, I'm going to spend 15 minutes poring over this. And I have like a worksheet that I created, where I take notes, and it's like, so I don't forget things. So I'll put I have like prompts, size, colors, all kinds of stuff on it. So I go through it almost like, what did my husband call it? Like, I don't know, what's it called? Like an autopsy.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, got my suit on, I'm ready to go. What can we find out? And, it's fun. And I'll lay them out for her, and I'll say, hey, what do you see in this quilt? Because I like to see what a non-quilter sees, because sometimes we're biased with stuff,
Yes.
Like appliquing on a sheet, and I like to, I'll say, what do you see? What are you noticing? And then, he's always comes up with things that I didn't see. So it's a group effort, and I do love it. It's fun.
Tiffany wants to know, have you ever gotten any antique or vintage quilt tops and then finished them?
I have quite a few quilt tops, flimsies, or whatever you want to call them. I haven't finished them yet, other than this, the trash can quilt or the garbage can quilt that I have.
I'm sorry. You just said that, and literally my mind went, other than putting it in the trash can. I was like, wait.
Oh, no.
And then I was like, oh wait, we're talking about the trash can quilt.
I have a few I'd like to. I haven't done it yet. At that same auction, I bought one that I'm toying with finishing. Mm-hmm. It's all done on feed sack fabric. Like the feed sacks, you can still see all of the words from the,
wow.
Not the fabric that was printed.
Yeah. That's
and it's so neat. So I don't know. I love that about it. But I know I'm always about using quilts, and I don't, and granted, I have a ton of quilts that I don't use. Unfortunately, I mean, I have quilts on this ladder back here, and I have quilts everywhere in my house, but I do think that they should be used, or at least appreciated in some way, or displayed in some way. And I don't know how to finish this and keep the integrity of that feed sack. Like, I think that's the coolest part about this. Yeah. So I think it would get lost in finishing it. So most of the time I do have a bunch. I have a stack over here I'm looking at right now of just quilt tops that I'm thinking I really need to finish these, and I haven't yet, but someday.
That's one of the things that she loves to do, is to finish the old quilt tops. And on that note, if you look over there, you see the one with the green border. That's an old quilt that a friend of mine passed over to me. I don't have the story of the quilt, and I wish I did. Maybe I can get it. But when I went to retreat in July, she handed it to me and said, the person that pieced this has passed away. Do you want to finish it? And I was like, yes, I'll take it. And it's not my favorite color. It's not my color palette. It's a lot of earth tones going on in there. I normally go for more bright colors, but the piecing on it is phenomenal. And I would love to see that quilt gets finished. And as I'm saying that, I'm realizing that I might not be the one to finish that.
Oh, here we go.
I know somebody. I think I know somebody that could finish it.
Yeah, me.
He's so close to, I can go see him and take some of these old quilt tops to be finished too.
There you go.
Oh, look at there. Look at there.
There's a few that my long armor knows I have and is always itching. She's like, when am I going to get my hands on that antique quilt to quilt? So I have a few out there that I really need to just do it.
Yeah, bring it over.
Bring it over.
One thing though, like,
I don't even know, like, is there special consideration with antique quilt? Because sometimes they're a little more brittle.
When, from the point of view of the long armor, when you're quilting the antique quilt, just like you want to preserve it and, extend its lifetime. So instead of doing like dense, detailed stitch in the ditch, stitching in the ditch on a brand new quilt might snap the thread anyway if it hits the right way. But stitching in the ditch in an antique quilt will
not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
A good idea. Okay.
So what most long armors do is like a serpentine line, like a small, like just curvy zigzag, and that stabilizes the seam.
Okay.
On both sides. And, that helps, keep the quilt living longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Words.
No, it's okay. I know where you're getting at.
Uh-huh.
So you're saying what they'll do a lot of times is not heavy, dense quilting on the antique quilt and not stitching in the ditch.
A lot of fullness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This has what?
Unless
Fullness.
it has a lot of fullness. Because most
Okay.
antique quilts that I understand were hand pieced or hand appliqued. And
Awesome. Yeah.
sometimes, even with quilts nowadays, like the double wedding ring, you still have fullness, so sometimes that denser quilting will still help to stabilize that fabric, but it'll
Okay.
help draw in that fullness and make it look perfect.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. So that's something maybe I need to make a trip to Lancaster. I went to Obie's a few weeks ago. Do you know where that's at?
I have no
No,
idea what you're talking
I
about.
don't either.
Oh, it's this, I forget the town. It's right outside of Lancaster. We were down in it. They do wholesale and they're going out of business. And I went with this,
Oh.
and it was stacks of fabric to the ceiling. It was insane. Yeah, if you Google Obie's, that's where we were at. But yeah, we were down there, down there. I'm trying to think where I'm even at. And I love it. So we went to the Quilted Acorn, I think. That
Never
quilt
heard
shop?
of that one either.
No, that one.
I stay in my little cocoon, which is my house.
Okay.
Well, I could say that that's probably true because when we were on our way to the Quilt Expo, he was like, I was so excited to come down. I didn't really sleep last night. He's like, this is how I get when I go to Target. And I was like, what?
Well, I'm busy slaving away on your quilt, so
Well, somebody's got to.
well, isn't that your job?
No.
Oh.
We have some new customers now.
Uh-huh.
I think I gotta make a trip to see you there.
That's
These
awesome.
antique quilts.
I think it's so cool because if you think about it, what we're talking about right here is almost 3 aspects of quilting that we each enjoy. I like picking the fabric and piecing them together. I do like long arming, don't get me wrong, but I don't do that as much as I piece the quilt, right? And
Okay.
Tucker's extremely passionate about quilting them, and you're extremely passionate about dissecting it when it's all done to see what we did. That's awesome.
We can learn so much from people who've gone. I feel like they're taught. I know it sounds really crazy, and I tell very few people in here. I'm telling everybody on YouTube this, but I swear I hear the makers talking to me sometimes, or I get feelings from these quilts, and sometimes they're not great feelings, and that quilt that was appliqued, I did not get good vibes from that quilt at all. It's weird, but I do. So I feel like somebody's explaining to me their thought process, which is very odd. But
So, okay.
now that you think I'm crazy.
No, I don't think you're
Ah.
crazy, but this question has popped into my head like 4 times now.
Okay.
I love the Elm Creek Quilts books. I haven't gone through all of them, but I've gone through most of them and I've listened to them on audiobook because I love to read, but I fall asleep as soon as I hold a book. So I have to do audibles. So I've listened to a lot of them, and one of the books in the series, there's a story that somebody has shared about a quilt that was taken apart or something, and they found the foundation paper on the back of the quilt top, and it was old phone book paper or something from like whatever era that was. What have you come across? Have you dissected any? What's the weirdest thing you found inside of a quilt?
Yeah, I have dissected a lot. In fact, I'm getting more, again, back to the autopsy of a lately I've been doing a lot more of picking apart that binding and peeking inside, because I can repair it. I know I can the one I just showed, the last lessons from an old quilt that I just did, I showed the inside of it. It's a string quilt. And I was so curious about the foundation and how they did it. And I'm still baffled by how they did it. So,
keep talking. I'm listening. I'm just.
Oh, sure. No problem. So, yeah, I haven't found, other than filth, a lot of dirt. I haven't found anything super surprising yet, other than, I mean, some stuff you expect.
That's fine. Now I have a question.
Yeah.
Antique quilts were made, I'll just say in like the 30s era when they didn't have very much and stuff like that. Have you ever found a quilt that had another quilt used as batting?
Well, that's my dream. And that's what I thought for sure with this one quilt that I had, the string quilt, that I thought for sure there was going to be another quilt inside. I have not yet that I know of, that since I've started dissecting them and stuff, but that's my dream. I'm hoping one of these someday has one. I don't know what I'll do, because I don't think I'll take it apart to see that quilt completely, but I do love the idea that they did that.
Huh.
So somebody in the chat asked for me to show the quilt that my friend gave to me.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to hold it up.
Okay.
I think this is up. Nope.
Nope. There. Yeah. It looks like houses.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty.
She did a nice job. I'd love to know who it was, because I would love to be able to put their name on a label on the back after it's all done.
It's
Here we
not
go.
big.
No, it's not that big at all.
Oh, that's pretty. Look at that.
All right, Kris, dissect it. What did they do?
What
What did I do, Kris?
I like the windmill. It's almost like windmills, like farms. I don't know.
I mean, doesn't it remind you of Pennsylvania?
It does a little bit. Yeah. I think it's interesting that I will dissect it a little bit. So only certain houses have chimneys.
I'm looking. Oh yeah, this one.
Is it always the same pattern that has the chimneys?
Every other row.
Yeah.
No, that's
because
not
down
true.
here.
Because here, these 2 rows have chimneys.
Okay.
This looks like 90s fabric or 80s.
Yeah, that definitely looks 90s. 80s or 90s. They're not solids, right?
No.
So with the pink, like the rose color, like at the top row, I'm like pointing to my screen like you can see me. Yeah, there's not a lot of contrast. I don't like that there's not a lot of contrast between the roof and the background.
Yeah,
But that all blends together. Yeah, all of that. It needed a little
windows. There's not a lot of contrast either.
Yeah, not that could be a design choice and something that they did. They also used the background fabrics different than the pointy house ones.
Oh yeah. Yep. It's things that I never would have even thought about. Like houses with windmills. But like when you take a step back and you look at it back here, you don't really see all that, right? Like you see, I totally see the windows in that one house.
Yeah, like the contrast, but not that that's bad.
The overall effect, I see a little bit more. And I think for me, that's one of the things that I like to remind myself about with the quilts is we all make mistakes. Sometimes we cut fabric wrong or things don't line up. And I try to remember or remind myself that when I take a few steps back, if I'm not going to see it a foot away, it's probably not going to matter. Just enjoy putting it together. That pink fabric, I probably would have changed that.
It could have faded. It could have been more vibrant at one point. What's in the corners of it? What's in the corners of the quilt?
The corners? So they did these like little quarter square triangles.
Oh, okay. That's
point.
Cute. I like that. That's nice.
So how would you quilt it, Tucker?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask.
0.0625.
She's telling me he ain't going to quilt it. Wait, what'd you say? 0.0625.
I quilted Tucker and my watch goes, the answer is 0.0625.
That's the percentage of chances that you're going to get.
It is a beautiful quilt and it will get, it will get finished, whether it's me or somebody else, we'll see. I feel I'm kind of honored to have it. Like, it feels like a important torch to be carrying for somebody else.
That's how I feel about these antique. And people say, well, are you ever going to sell them? And I probably should. I have them everywhere in my house. I mean, I have them stuffed under beds, and I have like 4 ladders, and they're everywhere. They're on shelves. They're everywhere. But my fear is if I sell them, somebody's going to cut it apart. And not that I'm against that. I think that if you own the quilt, you can do with it whatever you want, but I can't send it to the slaughterhouse. I'm attached to these quilts, which is crazy, but I'm attached to them, and who knows, there's going to be a really good auction when I die, because I don't think the kids are going to want them. My boys are like, those old quilts, no.
Karen wants to know if you watched The Bold and Beautiful, because she said you look like the actress that plays Katie.
Ooh, no, I don't watch it. I used to watch. That was a spinoff from Young and the Restless many years ago, and I used to watch Young and the Restless, but no, that's been 20 years.
People that are in the chat going, yes, you do. So there you go.
Well, thank you. I could be here. Yeah.
It's so popular.
I get who is it that? Oh, Kimberly Jolly. People will say I sound like her. But I haven't.
No, I don't hear that.
You don't hear that?
No,
yeah, I get that
hear
every now and then in the comments that I sound like her, but I haven't heard the other one with Bold and Beautiful.
Oh, how about that?
But I feel privileged. I mean, hey, I could get some autographs.
Here they go. Just flip your hair a little bit more.
Flip my hair. I don't know. I have to watch now to see who maybe she's not so nice. I don't know.
Maybe you're
taking it as a compliment. Maybe. No. That's very nice of you to associate me with anybody famous. I appreciate it. Whoever said that in the chat. But
it was a couple of people. I'm looking to see if there's any. Karen Brown interviewed a lady who was talking about the vintage quilts that had wool socks used for batting. Have you seen anything like that?
No, not yet. I mean, I've seen some pretty interesting battings, like mostly flannel sheets, a lot of flannel sheets. But not really. I mean, usually it's cotton, and usually if the cotton's pulling apart, so I see a lot of that, like, especially because I have one quilt that is pre-Civil War in my collection, and that one, the batting is clumping, that one I'll never probably wash, just because I'm afraid it would completely fall apart. But, and funny story, that was one of my first quilts that I got as an antique quilt. I had no idea it was that old. Until I started doing videos, and I pulled it out to do a video, and I used it as a tree skirt for 20 years under real trees in my living room. I just stuffed it under there. And when I started dating fabrics and really getting into the YouTube videos, I started dating this fabric, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is from like 1850, and then they started having little panic attacks, and this was right at the beginning of the pandemic, so I couldn't even get it to an appraiser. So I had a friend who was studying to be an appraiser, and she looked at it and she goes, oh yeah, you got yourself a pre-Civil War quilt. I'm like, dang,
that was under my tree.
It's been under my tree. Like, my cat's laid on it for years. I mean, years and years. So but yeah, that one definitely, and that might be a wool batting even. It's just clumping and pulling apart and everything else. And I'm very delicate with it now. I wasn't. I just thought it was an old quilt.
So a couple of people in the chat have some comments. The first one is from Katie Simard, who is asking, can we see the ugly quilt? And then I'm not sure which one she's referring to, because if it's the one that we were talking about making, it doesn't exist yet. And then the other one is a comment. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Teresa says, I have no one to leave my old quilts to. Should I donate them to a museum? So that brings up a good topic. What would you do? What would you recommend?
Gee, oh gosh, that's so sad. I mean, I would, if they're really old, like antique quilts, absolutely, any of your quilt museums are going to take them.
She said she was talking about antique quilts.
Antique quilts. Okay. So yeah, so any of your quilt museums, and unfortunately, there's not many of those left. the one that comes to mind is the Lowell Quilt Museum in near Boston, in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is a phenomenal place. But also just historical societies will take them a lot of times.
Oh,
So your local historical society, there's places like that, that guilds will usually have some more resource, or somebody will know somebody who will take them and preserve them. I'll take them. Okay. You can sell them too if you would want to. It's a huge market right now. Antique quilts are just, I can't go. When we first moved here, I could go to an auction, and I don't know how it is in Virginia. You're in Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Auctions are crazy here in Pennsylvania.
never been.
Have you ever been to any, Tucker? I could go to an auction every day. There's one near me every day. And
oh my gosh.
but I could get a quilt for $30-$40. Now I'm spending 100, 110, 150 on a quilt. This particular quilt was 150 I got it for 150. So they're going up in price. If you need, if you wanted to sell, you could sell on Etsy or something like that too. But yeah, historical societies, if you're going to leave them to somebody, that's where I would leave them to. Is probably the route I would take.
Katie is saying the quilt that she's asking if she can see is the one that gave you bad vibes. Do you still have it, and can she see it?
Okay, I'm gonna admit something here that I've avoided the comments, the whole thing. I actually started to take it apart and got such bad vibes from it that I threw it out.
Wow.
It was so creepy, and I was in tears. So I'm sorry, and I have regretted
like you are serious. Like, you don't just get feelings from a quilt. Like, you are in tune with the quilt. You are crying.
I was. I said to my husband, I said, I can't even donate this quilt because there are so many bad memories I'm feeling with this quilt that I need it out. I need it out of my life, and I need it out of everyone's life. It needed to go away. I've never thrown a quilt out in my life, and I'm even getting like emotional that I had to do that. But
yeah,
it was, I think some really bad things happened around this quilt.
Well, you've got people in the chat saying,
I'm tearing up now thinking about it. I hated throwing it out. I would never do that, but my other option was to donate it, and the idea of putting it out into the world with all of whatever was in it. I couldn't do it. And like I said, I started taking it apart because I was gonna repurpose the blocks that were appliqued on. And the more I took it apart, the more I just kept, I'm getting emotional now thinking about it.
There are people in the chat that are saying they would have done the same thing. Good for you. Way to go. So nobody's hating you for that. You don't have to justify yourself. Listen, I will tell you, I have thrown out a quilt that I started.
Yes.
And I couldn't finish it. So I think we've all got at least one that made its way to a big bonfire in our front yard.
Right. And that was the thing, I ended up, I know it's in a landfill. I hate the idea of that. I hate that all of that, but I couldn't in good conscience, am I saying that right? Why does that not sound right to me now? Donate it. I would have donated. I thought about donating it, but to the idea of somebody else even owning it and having whatever I was feeling in their life, it wasn't good. It was not of God. It was to me evil.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
I know I sound crazy. People are like, she's nuts.
Nope. Literally, I'm looking at the chat right now, and everybody is agreeing with you. So just take that off your shoulders, let it go, and move on. Like,
I've dodged it in the comments on the video because people are like, "What'd you do with it? Send it to me." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea." I've dodged the fact that I've thrown it out, but it was not long after I made that video that I'm like, I got to get this out of my house.
There you go. I have had some things, and I'll put this here and then we'll leave this topic alone and we'll move on. But along the lines of carrying bad energy, I don't want to sound crazy or super new age or anything like that, but I have had things in my home that I have moved out of my home, and almost as soon as that was done, I don't know if it was just because it gave me a sense of peace, or maybe I had bad memories associated with it. I don't know what it was, but the air felt lighter when that was gone.
That's how I felt.
Yep. And it
That's
maybe
how I
it
felt.
could it could be something as simple as it depends on how you look at it, right? It could be something as simple as maybe it's an item that you associate with bad memories and you just don't
Right.
want it to be there anymore, or it reminds you of a person that you just can't think about anymore. Maybe a bad breakup with a boyfriend or something, and you got whatever it is, or maybe it's something that really has some really bad energy about it. Doesn't matter. So
Yeah, it just was creepy. I think I even talked to Tracy because I was feeling guilty. I'm like, what do I do? She's like, get rid of it. So I'm going to throw Tracy under the bus too, because she was advising me. I'm like, and 99%, in fact, that's the first time I've ever gotten that. Like, I've gotten some heavy feelings and emotions with some of these quilts, and it could be my own experiences or whatever, but never to the point I was in tears and I was just not liking. And the more I tore it apart, the more I was like, I am not liking what I'm feeling and I need this out of my life. So
let's move on from that. Although I will talk to you offline about, there's a comment in there from the debt-free quilter about if you ever need help with something like that before, or again, in the future, she's volunteering services. So I'll talk to you about all that offline, but I want to change the topic because I feel like that's sad. Like it's sad to see, you know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of, it makes you feel bad. And I don't feel like you have to defend your decision. You made the right decision for you, given what you were dealing with at the time. And that brought you peace. And that is all that you need to justify that decision. So.
Yeah, it was a tough one. I just want everybody to know I did not take it lightly. And I, am still questioning it, but I did do it.
Yep. So let's move on to the next topic.
Okay.
I have no idea what that is.
I pulled some stuff. What did I pull? I don't know what the next topic is.
Megan's over there. She's literally sitting in a chair behind the computer, and she's been so quiet the whole time. She just started laughing.
We got to get out of the funk of the big, Kris throwing out a.
It's totally cool.
But I've been avoiding the topic with people. So now it's out there. The dish is out there. What happened to that awful quote?
Look at that. Exclusive on my channel. Kris throws away quilts. You're welcome.
Kris throws away quilts. I did.
So Tracy's saying, so the ugly Christmas quilt challenge. I think we got to figure out the details before we just start talking about what that's going to be like. Like we gotta figure out who's in on this.
Planning committee.
Yeah, we got to have it's got to be like a real thing. Like we got to make it a big deal. So more to come. Stay tuned. Hopefully lots of content creators will be in on this. Wouldn't it be great if we all made really ugly Christmas quilt blocks and somebody put them together and then
and somebody quilted them.
I'm teasing. I give him a lot of, I like to pick on him because when he came last time, he left with 2 quilts to quilt and he did a phenomenal job. I cannot wait for you to see what he did.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, we showed him the red and white one, didn't we? Yeah. So the red and white one's amazing. But the other one, did you make content on that one?
Nope.
Oh,
I was focused on quilting it.
Do we want to show it?
That's on you, Pooh.
Okay, so Kris, we're going to show you a quilt that we collabed on. Do you want to see it?
Yes, I would love to see it.
Why don't you go grab it? Okay, Megan's got it.
We have a person.
It's going to get me out of my throwing out a quilt is good.
So we're going to be up here in this camera.
She's like, I ain't getting on YouTube.
So this quilt, before we show it off, let me give you the story of this old quilt, Kris.
Okay.
This old quilt, this old house. The tale of this old quilt is this is a quilt that I did. I was supposed to go to a physical retreat in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and I ended up with COVID and I couldn't go, but I had my fabric picked out and I did this on my own that same weekend.
Oh, wow.
Following the New Year's star pattern from Donna Jordan, except I added sashing in between all of the star blocks.
Okay.
And I was very meticulous with this quilt. I wanted my points to look good. I just knocked over my trash can. I wanted my points to look good. So I put the sashing in there so I didn't have to match everything up. but I even made sure that all of my directional fabric was going the same direction. I laid it out
Wow.
and I put it on my quilt rack. So I have a quilt rack in the corner of my room. I'm looking over here. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I knew what you were doing. I knew you were looking at the computer.
I have a quilt rack in the corner of my room, which is where I put all of my quilt tops that need to be quilted. And when Tucker came over in
2 weekends.
gosh, it's only been that long. A couple of weekends ago when he came, we knew that we were going to collab on a quilt. We knew that he was going to leave with a couple of quilts. So we can play the act of I'm whipping him to death, like working him to death, whatever. But
This was planned.
we knew we were going to collab, and we knew that one of them was going to be, well, actually we didn't know. We decided then, didn't we?
Yeah.
We decided that we wanted to take one of the quilt tops that I pieced and he was going to quilt it. And the plan is that we're going to enter it in a show. So he had to do show worthy quilting on this. And I had no idea what he was going to do. And he's going to show you what he did.
It won't show up on this big camera. We'll have to zoom in.
I'm going to go behind the camera. I'm going to pin so that you are, and I'm going to zoom in so people can see.
Look at how beautiful.
Yep. So I'm going to zoom in on the quilting.
Right there.
Oh my goodness. It looks like trapunto.
I
Look at
hope that-
that. Oh my goodness.
Mhm. And then you have to see the border. Wait a minute. Zoom in
That's about as far
Right.
in as I can go.
right there.
Oh my goodness.
Feathers stick out a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, I can't see them as, I bet it's incredible in person though. But the quilting on the blocks
Mhm.
and the feathers, oh my goodness. Look at that.
So he has not quilted any of the stars because he wanted the stars to pop out. I'm
I
telling you,
love that.
you quilted it.
Uh-huh.
You should be telling that story.
Oh, wait.
Look at the back. Oh my goodness. Look at the swirls. It's like waves in the
Mhm.
squares. That's beautiful.
You did that
That's
awesome.
incredible.
wait,
Oh, I
wait.
can see the feathers now. You can see the feathers better on the back.
I feel like we could enter it in a quilt show and just show the back.
Absolutely. Like a whole cloth quilt.
You'll have to hang
That's
it.
beautiful. How are you binding it? Are you?
You want to talk about the binding?
I don't know. It should be in that box.
Oh, okay.
Talk about it. So at our last, oh, there's garbage all over the floor back.
Yeah, it's like
Ah.
trash can.
Yeah, now I lost my train of thought. Squirrel moment. Okay.
Binding.
When I came down to the Manassas quilt show, there was a lady teaching a lecture on flange binding, the easy way to do flange binding. And I came home, Becca's house. And I was like, we need to do this flange binding just to try it out.
I
So
love it.
you
Yeah.
take two different size strips. This is, I think, like a 1.5, and this is 1.25 inch, and sew them together. And you have, let me see, you have this little tiny flange. So it looks like you did a lot of work, but you really didn't.
I love flange binding. It's my favorite technique lately.
So that's what we're going to do with binding.
love
I don't know if this is going to be the actual one. We still have to see if it looks right.
Yeah, so I think what we were planning to do, like
This the other way on the back and then wait, yeah, it goes back to come to the front. Yeah.
Yeah, this would
You
be
do it,
right.
you do it. I don't know what.
At least
to
that's the way I do flange.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, see this, you would sew to the back. No,
Yeah.
It's really raining out there.
do. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty.
Oh, wow.
Like
Like
that.
that.
Then you would stitch in the ditch right where the two colors meet. So then the flange would actually stick up a little bit because it isn't stitched down.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You need to tell me if that works.
I love
think
flange
the-
bindings.
I think where I don't know, like I'm afraid I'll mess up the quilting on the back if we stitch it on the front.
If you
I don't know.
you stitch it to the back and then flip it to the front.
Yeah, but when you stitch it to the front, you're gonna see
No,
the
not
stitching
with
on the
this
back.
because it lands like right in that.
Right in the groove.
Well, we'll work on that.
Okay.
Do a
But it
sample
is
with it. or
gorgeous.
something.
It is gorgeous.
It's
And
beautiful. It's incredible.
I'm really very pleased with it. He was nervous. He was nervous
Yeah.
to show me the quilt because he wasn't sure if I would like it. And I was like, dude, it's gonna be amazing. Like, I trust you with any quilt I give you. I feel like we just had the Tulip Pink and Angela Walters moment. You know,
Oh, they're like two peas in a pod with their quilting
Oh.
and piecing.
I was talking about just making him do all the work, but
Right.
I'm teasing. But I feel like how I totally trusted him. I knew that anything that he was going to do to this quilt was going to be better than anything I would have been able to do. You are so talented and it's gorgeous.
It's incredible. And I'm like ready. I'm thinking to myself, what can I give you to quilt?
Right? And then the Monica quilt, did you tell them? So I'll just grab
Words,
it.
Becca.
Words, I need them. They escaped me again. So this Monica quilt, he's going to have content on, but I'm really excited about this because this was a quilt that I made I just pieced. They're just red and white squares that I just pieced together using some batik fabric. The binding's on, it is officially finished.
Nice.
And when I had it loaded on my long arm and I wasn't sure how I wanted to quilt it. And so I asked Tucker to do it for me. And he immediately said, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I was thinking I'd do something in the white and then kind of leave the red alone. So he took it back and he did just X's through the red, but in these white, do you see that?
I love it. He showed it earlier too. It's the back too. Now you can really see it on the back. I mean, on camera, I'm sure in person you can see it on the front too, but oh my goodness, look at that.
And so we took the cream from the cream squares and just did the binding around it to really kind of like make it feel nice and clean.
I love it.
It just, when I saw this, I was like, yes, I was thinking
you wanted.
that would be great in those spots because it kind of nods to that really traditional old school design.
And I talked about that. You know, I've said when I look at this quilt, it reads traditional.
Right.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's because it's a red and white or what it is, but it does. It's a great size. And this is on its way Sunday to its forever home. And I'm so sad.
Where's it
going? I want to give this one away.
Where's it going?
So
to me?
Yes, we need you to dissect it. So
I know.
I'll cover up with this quilt.
Okay.
So I originally made this and I was going to keep it for myself, but I believe, and maybe this has to do maybe with the energy thing, kind of branching on that we were talking about. As I'm making quilts and putting things together, I feel like they tell me where they want to go.
Oh,
and it's not like they're like, oh, I need to be Tucker's quilt. It's not like that. It's just something always happens where somebody falls in love with something that I'm doing. And I love to give. And
That's
so
awesome.
usually something happens in the process of making a project that either while it's being made or after it's finished and I'm holding on to it, it's forever home. That's what I call it, has been made available. And I don't hold it back from going. I don't hoard them. I get them out. Like if that's where they're supposed to go, that's where they're supposed to go. So this is what I have been calling my Monica quilt. And I call it that because it reminds me of a quilt that's in the show Friends.
Yes.
There's a whole video on why I made this quilt this way. Well, my husband's ex-wife, and you can blast me in the comments if you'd like. However, we are still friendly with my husband's ex-wife. They have kids together. She's never going away. So it's easier to be friends than to be enemies. So we get along, right? Mm-hmm. She just had her 50th birthday and she's all the time asking for a quilt. And I haven't made one for her yet. And I have been on the fence about whether or not I want to do one. I don't know. I do have a desire to make everybody in my family, including her, a quilt. And I haven't really tackled hers yet. Well, her favorite color is red.
Perfect.
She loved the show Friends, and her middle name is Monica.
Oh, look at that. It was meant to be.
Well, look at that.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Looky there.
She just had her 50th birthday in August. And so this was pieced. I called her around her birthday, either the day after or something, and I told her that this was coming to her. And I hadn't even thought about, I was like, it's called the Monica quilt. It's coming to you. And she was like, well, my middle name's Monica. And I went, oh yeah, it sure is. See, it was meant to be. So it's all quilted. It is bound. It is ready to go to her. But tonight this has to get a good snuggle for me. And I think maybe tomorrow we'll pre-wash it. So hey, that's a really good question. Quilting, quilts, you make a quilt to give to somebody. Do you wash it first or do you give it unwashed?
I wash it first. Personally, I like the crinkle effect.
Right. Somebody's asking if I can show this up close so they can see more of the quilting. So I'm just going to hold it up. So you can,
Like, oh, that's a good shot.
yeah. And then here's a better view of it on the back because you can see the contrast.
That is incredible.
So
Tucker,
each
did you
one
do
of
that by
them-
hand or did you draw that?
There was, I don't even know which corner it was on, but I did one of the corner blocks when I loaded it on my long arm, and I drew the circle, and on my Statler I hit record. So I quilted the feather wreath and then went back through and, perfected it. And all I had to do was tell the Statler where the white blocks were, and it was off for the races.
Really? Oh gosh, that's so cool. I need one of these. That is so cool. Oh my goodness.
Excuse me while I make sure it still works.
Oh my gosh, here she goes. Oh wait, you have to go.
Oh look, yeah. I see a TikTok video in your feed.
Yeah, it's got that bamboo batting in it, so it's the drape is
Nice.
amazing. So
But yeah, I always wash before I give. But that's one of my favorite parts. Well, there's many favorite parts with quilting, but one of my real favorite parts is that pulling it out of the dryer and seeing all the little crinkles.
me too.
Shrinking up.
That's the one thing I will say I do. So that's why I asked, because when I give a quilt, it has to get a cuddle. I get to have the first cuddle of every quilt that I give away, and I give the first wash. I don't give them unwashed. And then I feel like I got to enjoy seeing it crinkle up. And then I feel like if I gave it to you washed, you don't feel bad for washing it.
That's exactly it. And I always put on the label that I pre-wash it and I tell them how to wash it, and how I washed it. And usually, especially baby quilts, I'll wash on, hot. I just wash them as like the worst settings you possibly could, because I figure
Yes.
you can't make them any worse.
That's right.
So, and I tell people to use them and wash. I mean, that's the thing, I want these quilts to be used.
Yep.
Do not hang a quilt. I mean, not that, wall hangings are fine and stuff, but try to use as many quilts as you can. That's what it's about,
Yeah.
And
So a couple of people have asked now, did we put a label on it? So technically it's not finished because I don't have the label on it. I sat here this evening before the live and put the binding on it and forgot to do the label.
okay.
I was going to make this custom label and put it in the corner and sew it in and use Ian from the Off Kilter Crafter has a video on how to make your own quilt labels. And I was going to do that using my Cricut and I never did it. So
I have one too, and that mine's pretty simple. So
yeah, it's really easy, right? You print it off. And,
yeah. And then I use interfacing. I use, I don't want to show my location. Can I get here? Well, I mean, it's not a big deal. I don't know. I just get weirded out that I'm like, somebody's going to find me, but I always put my handwriting on it.
Okay.
And I print it and then I border it. And then I, actually, I haven't sewn this one on yet. All I do is do a fusible interfacing, fuse it on, and then I just applique. I have a video on this.
Okay.
How
So
to
it's
do
the same, like so what Ian did is he just made a video on how to print and use sublimation process to get the ink off of the paper onto the fabric.
Oh,
then,
okay.
but like what you're talking about, like my brain's sitting here already going, where you're using the fusible to fuse it on, then you just do like a whip stitch or an application.
Yeah, you just make your little iron. It's like an iron-on.
That's all. So I want to do that. So
Okay.
here's what's stopping me from doing this is the polyester fabric that I bought for quilt labels. I don't want that on the back of this quilt. I don't like it. So I need to go to Joann's and get a different polyester to do the sublimation.
So I just use printable fabric.
What's
Send it
that?
through my printer. Let me go get it. Yeah, I use printable fabric. I think
Incredible fabric.
Well, no, but I have, but I'm trying to think like, where do I get that? I think is the
Oh.
right question I was trying to ask. Do they have it at Joann's? I'll have to find out. While you're doing that, somebody is asking what bamboo batting do you use? I use the Dream Cotton bamboo. It's my favorite. I need to order more of it.
In this quilt,
Is not bamboo.
oh no. Quilt Tessa, she's still up in here. She will tell you that Quilter's Dream Puff is the best batting in the world for edge to edge quilting, anything.
It definitely puffs.
It looks great with edge to edge, but if you want to do show quilting, this is like 3 layers of polyester batting in one, but it breathes. So it's
Yeah.
cool in the summer and hot in the winter, but
It stands up on its own.
I have no idea where it's at. But
Don't
yeah,
worry
it's,
about it, don't worry about
it's meant for printing on fabric. It's fabric. I'm gonna Google it with on Amazon because that's where I buy it. Yeah. And you just print right on, you send it right through your printer.
Yeah. June Taylor. Somebody said it's over at
June
Joanne's.
Taylor, yeah,
Yep.
that's it. June
I'll
Taylor.
check it out.
It's a little pricey, but it's worth it.
I'll check it out because that'll be great. And even if not, like I do like I'll figure it out. This will have a label before it goes to its forever home on Sunday. It'll probably happen sometime tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
And it's gonna, because I don't want to ruin the quilting, it's gonna be hand tacked on the back.
That's what I do. Yep.
And I'm just gonna hand tack a whip stitch around it and it'll be fine.
And another tip people talk about now, it's a little too late for you to do it with this, but put some information inside the binding about the quilt. So if it ever gets stolen, you can prove it's yours or whatever. You can take it, just
I
lift
could
up
pick
that
the
binding.
stitches if I needed to,
Yeah.
I could do that, but I'm not totally worried about it on the label. I do want to I like the idea of putting a custom label on it because it has a special meaning. It's a special story. So I don't just want like one of my normal ones. So
I write a whole bunch of stuff, but I do have it in a video, exactly what I include, my template, what I include on all my labels. And I think working with the old quilts, there's so many I wish had labels. I wouldn't be doing this guessing game all the time too, and I'd have a little bit more information. So I get really excited when I see a date on a quilt.
Yes.
Because it gives me some information.
Teresa says she just uses white fabric, irons it onto wrapping paper, and then puts it through the printer.
Oh, that's a good idea. Or yeah, freezer paper people will do too.
Freezer paper.
Yeah, freezer paper, wrapping paper. I haven't had much luck doing the freezer paper. I've tried it a few times, but I just get this, and I usually get the 50 pack because I make the label, it'll last me forever, it seems like. So, and I really like to do it that way, but.
Linda Denton is asking, what was the name of the pattern from Jordan Fabrics? That is called the New Year's Star.
Love Jordan Fabric.
She's
awesome.
I'm very proud of this quilt.
It's incredible.
If I looked at this quilt, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so beautiful, Tucker. That's gonna get a ribbon, but it's only because of his quilting.
Your piecing is impeccable too.
Well, the piecing is good. That fine. Thank you. I appreciate that. But what makes this quilt is the quilting.
Isn't that the way it is? I think.
And I don't think you have a black light in here, do you?
No.
Oh, because all this thread glows in the dark.
Oh,
does it really?
Under a black light.
Are you kidding?
I forgot to tell you that part.
Oh my goodness. Well,
that's awesome.
Black light.
I thought he was going to be like, because there's lots of blood in it. I want to show you how much I had to
right.
This quilt. Oh, that's awesome. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
You did a really good job on both of these. I'm sad that I don't get to cover up with either one of them. Tonight I can.
Oh my God.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Well, Kris, it is just about 10 o'clock. I like to try to keep the live to just 2 hours. And I can't believe I feel like I looked down at the clock and it was 9:15.
I know.
But it's 10 o'clock. Where did the time go?
Well, I was like, how are we going to talk for 2 hours? But this is like old friends chatting and confessing things and
talking about bad juju and
bad juju
out of the house. There is a question from Katie Jolson, and I gotta scroll up. She wanted to know, please ask Kris, is there a way to repair a 125-year-old quilt that is literally disintegrating before my eyes? My grandmother made it when she was young.
Oh my gosh, how awesome to have that quilt.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that is that old, I suggest going to get it appraised, because sometimes if we repair the old quilts, they lose their value. Now, if it's sentimental value and you want to keep it and you don't really care about that part, I say repair it so you can use it longer. But if you, for resale value or for the value of the quilt, if you want to keep that, it really depends on your own personal choice with it, but definitely go to an appraiser with something that old before you start repairing it. If you really want to preserve it for monetary use someday. And you know what, your grandmother might really love that you would sell it, you know, and use the money for something you want. It really just depends on a personal preference. But anything really old, you have to ask yourself that question. Do I want to preserve it as an old quilt, or do I want to use it as a quilt that I really want to wrap it around me because my grandmother made it? So once you come up with that answers your question. Go for repairing it if you want to, or get it appraised, and see what it's worth and then repair it. But I would always start with getting it appraised.
She is
Some quilts are worth a lot of money.
So I know Katie a little bit, and I don't think she's interested in the monetary side. I think it's a more an emotional thing. And she did put in the chat that it has holes in it. Are there any tips or techniques for repairing holes?
So there are, you can patch them. I mean, just as simple as patching them. But if you do that, make sure you put whatever batting or the equivalent of underneath it, so you're not getting a lot more wear in that one spot as you're using it. So definitely patch in a piece of batting or whatever, if it's a sheet or flan or whatever it is, so it's equivalent throughout, and then put a patch right over top of it. Sometimes with disintegrating fabric, you can even add some tulle and stitch on it just to preserve the pieces that are flaking off and keep it under there, and then applique over it, or even just leave the tulle. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that. There's tons of fabrics out there now with reproductions that you can kind of get a close match of. I have a quilt that I showed. It has it's a pink basket quilt, and they use somebody did repair it, and they just appliqued very delicately the pieces right over top, and they use something very similar but not perfect, and you can't tell. I didn't even notice when I bought it that it was a little patched and whatever. So you can get it close to it, and that's how you would do it. Just like you would patch a shirt or a pair of jeans or something like that. You just put a patch over top.
So you just find fabric that looks close.
Yeah.
And you maybe make, if it's a whole block, maybe remake the block.
And you could applique it, yeah.
And you just applique it on top as a patch to hold it in. And if you're worried, I think what I heard you say is if you're worried about the pieces flaking off over time, you could put some tulle in between the piece that you're appliquing down and the original quilt to kind of preserve those flakes in place, so it's there underneath as it's disintegrating.
Exactly. And then I would continue whatever quilting method they use, whether it's hand quilting, even if you're not really good at it, just hand quilting, just to keep those stitches consistent. You want the weight of it to be distributed evenly, because if you don't, you're going to have that keep coming off. So whatever was done before, you want to kind of mimic that and just be as consistent as you can with it.
Yeah.
So
it's really too bad that it's disintegrating. That's kind of what happened with my, oh gosh, that was a gorgeous quilt. But what is tulle? Tulle. It's like the stuff that ballerinas wear, like the veil, like a mesh.
Yeah, and you can get some that's softer than others, so be on the lookout for that. A lot of them are polyester, so you do want to be aware of that if you're using an iron or anything like that. But that's where I see a lot of repairs are done. They use that to preserve it and kind of encompass all those pieces.
I never would have thought to use tulle underneath that to hold it.
Nope.
Yeah, it's a way to do it. Just I would definitely label the quilt after you repair it, saying how you repaired it if you did use tulle, just so somebody doesn't iron it or throw it, just so that's out there on how it was repaired. But that's how I would do it. Yeah, that's the best way, is to make sure that everything, your batting, especially your batting, is consistent. You don't have no batting and then batting other places, because it won't wear well then. So
Kris, it has been a blast. I'm so happy you joined us. I can't believe these past 2 hours have gone by so quickly.
Anytime.
I can't wait to make an ugly quilt with you.
I can't either. I think it's going to be so much fun. Like, the uglier, the better.
I do have one more question for you on our way out.
Sure.
Tiffany wants to know, how long have you been quilting?
27 years.
Oh my goodness. See,
Yeah.
like I was waiting for her to be like, oh, when the pandemic started.
Oh, no. No, I started quilting when my youngest son was a baby, and he'll be 27 this year.
Did you start because you wanted to make him a quilt?
I did. Well, I started with curtains and stuff. So I just wanted to sew.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I was like,
too.
curtains are expensive. I want to sew. So I started with curtains and pajama bottoms for my kids, my oldest son especially. And then my youngest was born. I was like, I really want to quilt. And I joined a quilt guild first.
Yep.
And then I made my quilt, which I highly recommend to anybody who's out there that's just thinking about quilting, because quilt guilds are the best place to find information about quilting.
I'm a member of 2, and there's so much talent inside of those quilt guilds. I absolutely love it. I started, by the way, because I just wanted to sew. So just like you, I just wanted to sew. I just wanted to make something. And it's so funny because I would have, Kris says you don't look old enough to quilt for 27 years.
Yes.
I remember my mom telling me you should quilt. And I kept saying, no, I'm going to make bags and I'm going to make clothes. And now I'm like, no, I'm not going to make a bag. And no, I'm not going to make clothes, because I'm going to make a quilt. And you could take the quilt and make it into clothes. Might be controversial, but I'm not making clothes.
Right.
So,
That's that's the thing. And my mother didn't quilt. Nobody in my family, I don't know. Well, both of my grandmothers quilted, but
yeah.
I wasn't around them quilting. They didn't teach me how to quilt. So it was totally self-directed. My mother hates to sew, hates it, and even growing up, I remember her hating it. She had a sewing machine and just was so frustrated with it. So I'm not sure why I wanted to, but I did. And I'm glad I did. Look at me now.
What do you know?
Yeah,
All right, lady.
All right.
I know I probably won't see you in Atlanta, but I hope you enjoy your trip with your mother in March.
You might see me in Atlanta. I'm still making that decision. I'm not sure.
Let me know. Text me. I'll text you
will.
when the live's over, but text me, let me know if you're gonna go. I'd love to catch up and have coffee with you, and we'll definitely talk offline. We'll get a bunch of other people involved, and we'll do a ugly Christmas quilt challenge.
Got that right.
I love that idea. I love the idea of even just exchanging the fabrics and having all the same fabrics, ugly fabrics.
Oh.
Like I hate to go buy fabric because I have ugly fabric, but if say we got like 6 people, I don't know, we'll talk.
Yeah. It's literally percolating in my head. Like we get like 6, 7 people and we're like draw names and you got to send the ugly fabric to the person that you
See, and I'm thinking if we have like 6 people, we each get a fat quarter from the same like I send a fat quarter to everybody. We all get the same fabric.
Yeah.
And we'll talk.
Okay,
We'll figure it out. Stay tuned. There'll be a Christmas within the next month or 2. There'll be a Christmas collab, ugly Christmas collab coming.
All right, Kris, I'm going to end the live. So tell everybody good night.
Good night. We'll see you. Bye.
Want to hang out for a second? We'll end the live stream and then we'll catch up really quick.
Okay. So I'm staying here, right?
Yep. You're staying right there.